Yeah, make it look like a candy cane, not a spear. It's kind of what it looks like. It's you have to do that smooth.
Okay, a lot of analogies here.
Trying.
Okay, look, yeah.
All the food.
Yeah,
It's food day in St. Louis.
Do we need to eat or what? You know, all right, here we go. Jonathan Hurst, Nick Noback. Look at these two gentlemen here. Again, these guys, look more like a power slap competition than a drift fight. Jonathan Hurst, Nick Noback. We got the Cadillac here, Mr. Cool. Again, it is cool weather. And then Noback and then Noback Racing BMW on Kenda tires. This should be a good battle. To Nick Noback, a little bit of a smoother driver than Jonathan Hurst. Cash Racing, Mr. Cool, but just a fierce driver. He's going to be leading as he was locked and loaded. He was pre-seeded. Didn't need to go into the seeding bracket. The first battle here in St. Louis, and there we go. Right into it, snapping off those taillights. I know he's got that graphic out back, and the taillights already getting knocked out. As look at that, Nick Noback goes right into the side. Mr. Nick No Side instead of No Back, now going to that final outside zone. Ooh, boy, gets into the dirt. All right, these guys, like I said, No Back, a little more aggressive, or excuse me, Hurst, a little more aggressive than No Back. So need to smooth that thing out, man.
Yeah, Hurst, I mean, just coming off the line, you already knew he was going to be aggressive. And now that we've got that wall going through the first outside zone, there's no room for error at all. And that's what you see here. So Jonathan Hurst, straight line entry, but goes a little bit too deep, and that's where you see the correction of angle just as the back end touches the wall. And he's a good job here through the second outside zone, able to fill that quite nice. And as we go into the third, he adds a little bit of angle right at the end, and then starts to push out, but isn't able to get back on throttle and catch the car. So the judges are going to be looking to see if that was two wheels off, which here at this track isn't incomplete. So if two wheels go past that line completely, you can see the paint between the wheel and the line. That is it. That's
going to be incomplete. And it happened a few times yesterday, and especially in the seating bracket. So here we go. Nick Noback will now lead, and Jonathan Hurst will give chase. That back right corner, did you see the Squidward graphic?
I did. I liked it. Patrick on the other side. Oh, it's great.
So we got Squidward got an eye taken out there on that initiation, and Nick Noback will again now lead.
It looks like our track officials just checking things out. Whenever there's contact like that, you want to make sure there's no debris. So taking a quick look, everything seems to be okay, and we'll swap them around.
All right, down there on the line, Matt Sopa, co-host for ProSpec. He's now reassumed his role there on the start line. Lights extinguish, and it's go time. Nick Noback leaving in the BMW. Here comes John Hurst, a little launching entry into that first outside zone. Very smooth by Noback in comparison to Jonathan Hurst into the outside zone 2. The eye in the sky in the outside zone 2. And there, look at that, drawing that smooth line. As you say, that candy cane, that sweeping line into that final outside zone. So there is a tap, a little disrupted, throws Jonathan Hurst off and throws Nick Noback off. That could play a role there because, again, tapping that wall. If you do tap it, and we brought that up in our track explanation, if you tap it, don't let it disrupt the attitude of the car. And it definitely did for Nick Noback. And then eventually, reaction to Jonathan Hurst.
Yeah, and there's a couple of spots in this track you were allowed to decel, so we're going to get into that in a minute. But the first outside zone there from Nick Noback looked good. Transitions pretty late, dips one wheel a little bit far out of that zone. So looking aggressive as well. Now Hurst does a great job there in the chase, does pull out a little bit of angle there to get the proximity, and hits, and then Jonathan hits him right after, and then at this point, Nick is now two wheels off. So what the judges are going to be looking at here is you are allowed to decel in that area going up into the fourth outside zone. Did Nick decel too much or disrupt the car by hitting it and then cause Jonathan to then, crash into the side of him? Would Jonathan have hit Nick Noback if it wasn't for that wall tap? That's what I'm, more or less surmising from this situation. So the judges are going to be watching replays kind of over and over again. We've got a few different angles and a few different ways to look at this that, we don't pull up on the broadcast. You don't need to see them scrubbing frame by frame back and forth. So,
but the angles definitely do help because we are utilizing, obviously, the on-track static cameras that are obviously just on there. But the two drones we have, obviously the FPV, and we have the drone kind of the more stable static that's kind of looking straight down. Utilizing those angles, it's just been such a great asset for not only the judges but for the fans to really understand. And that's our job, right? Is to educate, entertain, have a good time, but also really break it down to what the criteria is.
Yeah, and ultimately, Jonathan did have contact in outside zone 1. Nick was not super deep in, so it didn't affect anything there. This outside zone 4 is going to be a point of contention basically until this event is over because it is a large amount of compression between the two drivers. Both drivers come in very quickly, and they will, and what I mean by compression is they will come together very quickly, and it doesn't take much. So
taking a look there in Adam LZ in the Drift HQ pits. You got Pit Pete right there, the dog. That's Colette Davis, Adam LZ's lady. And
looks like Pete's cheering for RTR there. You see that little flight tag on Pete? That's interesting.
Oh, and that's interesting. Is Pete playing some mental game there? Because he's going against Hopson. And look at this. Jonathan Hurst gets the victory. And would love the judge, as one of the judges, throw on the hand right now. Feeling confident, did a little bit of a refresh on his car. So the Guretti Motti's 3's racing 86. Oh, and Brutskiy hits. He straightens out there on initiation. The Never Settle BMW, again, doing double duty. Pro spec yesterday, as we said, #1 in the seating brackets. He's had a lot of track time, but unfortunately, he does get disrupted, or his vehicle goes out of shot, and there we go. And now bringing it across. Take a look at different angles there, but right out of the gates, Brutskiy with that major mistake as we get intimate with the back end there of Ken Gushi.
Yeah, it was a great initiation there from Ken. I really like the way that he kind of set things up. So very faint initiation, and then was able to push it into that zone. And then Brutskiy just overshoots it. I mean, that's all it is. So it wasn't like Ken was overly deep. He wasn't grinding into the wall. Dimitri just got a little bit too aggressive there. But Ken, I mean, the driving we're seeing in his line and angle right now is a great representation of his season. It's not perfect, but it is very consistent, and that is what got Ken into 5th, and is what is going to get Ken, a bit of a leg up here at this battle. Is, it wasn't anything crazy. He isn't taking a ton of risks. It's just very smooth. It's very consistent. We see a small correction there, but that's it. This is very much the Ken Gushi of old.
Yeah, absolutely. Great analogy there, and we're seeing Brutskiy talking to our Matt Sopa. Might be calling a competition timeout here. You're allowed one and only one, or if he's just going to turn it around.
Yeah, it was a good hit. There's
no, looks like he's turning around.
Yeah. With the way these cars are built now, I mean, the suspension components are built to collapse in some circumstances to allow other parts of the car not to get damaged, right?
Right.
It's very easy to change a trailing arm or a tow arm or any of the control arms underneath. Very difficult to change a subframe.
Right.
So, break the $5 part to save the $500 part.
Absolutely. So here we go. Brutskiy on the start line. Sans that back end. We'll see how he manages leading Ken Gushi. He's really going to need to force an error by Ken Gushi. But as you said, out front, I think he's really going to kind of dial it back. Not go to full 10, maybe just about a 7.5. See his passing still, right? So, but just as I say that, Ken Gushi may be giving him too much respect. But, at this point, didn't have too big of a correction so far. Taking that inside tighter line now works it into that final outside zone 4. So, again, not that hit, but, would like to see a little bit more out of Ken Gushi.
Yeah, it wasn't super aggressive. I mean, there is a tactic to be played where you don't, somebody's made a large mistake behind you, so you don't go, 10-10s all the way through. What I will say, though, Dimitri Brutskiy's lead run does look really good, which is kind of a shame that, it's not going to potentially make up for the mistake that was made previously. This is a really good run. What is interesting, though, is Ken's car bounced really heavily through the second outside zone. There's not a lot of things that would create that. So I want to, I think they're going to be looking at that car afterwards, but Dimitri Brutskiy's run through that, I mean, it was really good. It was really consistent. That is what you need to do to hopefully get a battle win after a mistake, but we'll see.
Well, here it is, Ken Gushi, the OG, original Gushi. And there it is in the grid. My books is the most gnarly gangster battle I've ever seen. So look out. Here we go. Shanahan Castro. Ireland versus Dominican Republic. All right, the Red Bull BMW goes in. You see that trunk flap up. Oh, that back right corner. He very well might have a DB'd. Let's take a look at it and make sure. But, oh boy, the tire is off. That's going to definitely hurt Shanahan here as he transitions in, and with that we'll see again the contact there, or was it too low a pressure, and that is obviously very much DB'd, and he did go into that wall there, so the contact could have caused it, which he would have to call a we'll get into that a little bit. Let's break it down.
We'll get into the rules here in a second about what Connor Shanahan's options are at this moment, but yeah, it was interesting just watching him come off the line. The way he started to initiate did put him almost parallel for a moment, and I'm very curious if that's what ended up doing it, is just getting the wheel into the wall very early, and that's what ended up stripping the wheel off. But I'm sure once we get to the replay, we'll be able to look into that a little bit more. But this is huge. This is not a great situation for Connor Shanahan. I will say, though, huge props. Finished the run.
Yeah, continued
Looked
on.
Great in that run. I mean,
and Castro, a great chase run, even given the scenario.
Exactly. It's very difficult to hold these cars back. You know, to Castro's point, these cars are super fast. So if the one in front of you is down, you know, half its grip, and you're still able to keep on it, that's incredible.
Yeah, so here we are again. Take a look at it.
Yeah, so it looks like right there, that initial contact is what ended up doing it, and then right here in the transition, you can really see it. I think we had an angle before that really showed it. I don't know if it came off even before he made contact with the wall, but wow. The tire, I mean, it held on there for a little bit, but Castro, amazing job there in the chase. And yeah, that was very, very unfortunate there for Shanahan.
Yeah, at one point, I mean, that was like a 45-degree angle. I'm talking about like this axis, you know, kind of left to right as opposed to kind of, you know, up and down. That was wild that he still continued with that.
They both look really rough.
Oh my gosh.
Something is going on there. I don't know if both wheels.
I think it's just throwing off that left-hand side. It's hopping.
Yeah, and you can see Rome out there just came out. So, you know, Rome's team is the one that's supporting the car and getting everything up and running. And yeah, they're gonna have to look into this. That is a terrible situation.
All right, so yeah, so in this instance, you know, abiding to the rule book, the contact caused the DB as opposed to if he had a DB that didn't have contact, just if a DB did due to low pressure, it would be one and done. Yeah,
which is part of the reason why I wouldn't mind seeing a couple other replays just to make sure of that. You know,
different angles.
Yeah, just to make sure it didn't DB'd at initiation, because he is very aggressive and he did have the tires lit up very quickly. So I just wouldn't mind seeing that part of it to truly understand. But as of right now, with the information we have at hand, it looks like it happened when he touched the wall. But yeah, wow. They do run very low tire pressure in these cars. I mean, oftentimes they're down into the single digits. To give you an idea, you know, your road car is going to be 30 to 40 PSI in a standard, you know, not even SUV, but like compact car. So,
all right, here's an overhead view. I don't even know if we're going to see from this angle.
Yeah, so you can see it lights up really quick. So I think it was just that quick tap there is when it came off and he was able to get through the rest of it. My concern now is that left side rear, because we saw smoke coming off that even all the way back to the pits. So,
well, you know, we're fixated here. Let's look at line though too. I'd like to see a full run. This is a good angle.
Yeah. So there. Now that's definitely it. Yeah. Wow. But,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get back to that. The contact, DB to the tires, so therefore he is able to replace the tires. Castro would be able to replace his rear tires as well, because Shanahan will be on new ones, right? So, but Shanahan will have to utilize a competition timeout. Castro will not. So a competition timeout being utilized as we'll advance on and revisit the second half. And again, we're fixated on the tire, but the runs in itself weren't that bad. So, you know, all things considered, Shanahan got a full pull and Castro a good chase run. So here we go, moving on. Dylan Hughes and D-Mads, this is hometown track. He'd love to put on a show, but he's got to get through the dozer. Dylan Hughes, as he flirts with the wall right there, a little more modern BMW as opposed to Shanahan's E36. And now coming into that third outside zone, D-Mads, that Fuel Lab vehicle now coming to that final outside zone, transitioning in. Here goes Dylan Hughes, just barely gripping into that outside zone forward. D-Mads grips up and shoots in on the inside of that final outside zone. Let's run it back. Again, Derek Madison, first time in front of his hometown crowd. He wants to make STL proud.
Yeah, and something that happened in practice you may not be aware of is Derek lost a large amount of oil, so hopefully the engine's all right, but look at Dylan Hughes, good initiation, gets right into it. Could have held into that zone a little bit longer, but Derek Madison is struggling to keep up there, which makes me think there's a possibility he's down on horsepower with some engine damage, but hopefully not. But I mean, Dylan Hughes through 3 looks great. Smooth transition there into 4, digs in, and Derek Madison overcommits just a little bit, and that's what we talked about. That's not a C at all. That is definitely a V there from Derek Madison.
All right, so yeah, I saw Derek Madison. I think he dragged oil from the track all the way back to the pits.
Yeah.
So you know, he definitely shellacked the track.
Yeah, it's never a good situation.
No, definitely not. So and as you said, insult to injury here. Just not only just greasing the track, but also could be down on power. Could have a bit of a hurt engine here. So here we go. Derek Madison now out front. Dylan Hughes and his pops, his spotter in his head. Let's see how Derek Madison fares tires with him out front, and Dylan Hughes in the chase position. Initiates outside zone 1. You see a little correction there. Inside the cockpit of the Fuel Lab, S14 now in a second. Outside zone, he hits. Straightens out. Dylan Hughes continues on, still applying that pressure. Look at that, good fortitude. Now into that final outside zone. Madison brings it in a lot cleaner of a line out front. As Dylan Hughes, I mean, look, kudos to Dylan for not backing down.
Yeah, very
Don't back
smart.
down, never give up.
Nope, never give up. Yeah, that was a very, very smart run there from Dylan Hughes. We take a look down here at Connor Shanahan's car. You can see, obviously, it doesn't take much to get the wheel back on. I'm not seeing any parts other than that. So, swapping back to our replay. So, D-Mads with a faint entry there. It doesn't get all the way out to first outside zone. And Dylan, you know, he is definitely playing it safe there. Derek looks like he was going 2 wheels off anyways, and then, you know, just catches the wall, which puts him back on a good line. Through 3 could have been a little bit deeper, and then through this transition, you can see just not able to get the power down, cuts it a little bit short, and then goes a bit wide. But Dylan Hughes, very veteran move there.
Yeah.
I guess we got to call Dylan Hughes a veteran at this point.
Yeah.
He's a veteran.
Yeah, I think just, you know, pro spec, accolades, and then going into pro. And unfortunately, Derek Madison is knocked out here in his hometown crowd. But Dylan Hughes getting bucked up, brother. Congratulations. 1-1, the Nitto tire shrouded vehicle. Run some new Titan 7 wheels. Saw a post out there. So
right.
And he was. Did you see the off-track wind testing? They had to hatch off and cut some holes in it. I don't know. It's Papadakis, the mad Greek scientist over there. Papadakis Racing Camp. Here we go. Ryan Tuerck out front. Ryan Litteral in the chase. The battle of the Ryans. Here we go. Rain X Toyota GR Corolla in that second outside zone. Ooh, looks like Litteral noses in. He does eventually reinitiate in that second outside zone. Looks like a taillight swinging in the wind. Now into this final outside zone. Let's see, is it a C or a V, or is it a Rain X Toyota GR Corolla digging deep into that last outside zone? Oh, Litteral flirting with that tire wall, and that played a major role last night.
Yeah, got a little spicy there at the end. Tuerck, we'll talk about his initiation here because it's kind of interesting. So as he comes up, you can see that feint and then really catches onto the power here right at the beginning. And it doesn't get him to fill the entire zone, but then here, it looks like Litteral tries to dive in and catch the transition at the right time, but gets a little bit too aggressive, and that's why he's got to straighten up. And then through 3, everything's looking good. Tuerck able to get the car close to the wall, fills all that outside zone, but after that mistake from Litteral, you're just playing catch up for the rest of the run. And you know, you want to fill the void, you want to try and get as close as you can, but in doing so, you're going to pull out angle, you're going to have a bunch of issues. So it also looked like Litteral there might have caught the wall a bit earlier, leaving 1, and that's what caused that into 2. So yeah, just a little bit sloppy there for Litteral. But I will say though, he drives with a ton of style and a ton of angle, and it's a great way to get somebody to choke up behind you.
Yep. All right, so talking a little strategy there. You can see the staggering of Ryan Tuerck. Now he's going to pace him, see what goes on. No cones are hit. We got a clean start here. Ryan Litteral initiates. Great looking livery. The Sunoco Race Fuels S14 on Kenda tires. Now transitions at outside zone 2. So Ryan Litteral giving him a little room here. Let's see how they handle outside zone 3. See a quick little decrease of angle there approaching outside zone 3. Then going to 4, dialing in. Ryan Litteral really on the outside line, and Ryan Tuerck follows him in suit. So some great driving by both the drivers. Let's analyze and see the different angles there. Did you see that quick little kind of decrease of angle? Yeah,
there was a bit of shimmying going on. There's even a bit of a shimmy there on initiation. You'll see the front end of Ryan Litteral's car kind of dive in right there. Not as apparent through this one, just the way that he's getting the car to come to angle, using his foot pedal to try and do that. But not too bad there for Ryan Litteral. You can see there's the shimmy that Jared was talking about earlier, where he has to pull some angle out to drive the car. And, I mean, Ryan Tuerck in the chase, he knows what to do. He knows how aggressive to be, not to overcommit on any of these. And, I mean, these guys have been driving together for a while, so, you know, fully aware of what Ryan Litteral can do and how much angle he could throw at any minute to, you know, kind of choke you off a little bit.
Yeah, and we're going to see Litteral out there at Grid Life next weekend, Road America. So here we go. Ryan Tuerck looks like he gets there's Connor in the lead, the Shanahan, the Shadow, and Jonathan Castro, Dominican's finest out front. Let's see what we got here from this LTH Toyota GR86. Castro puts it right in that first outside zone, transitioning now into second outside zone. Shanahan attacks very aggressively outside zone 2. He knows he needs to potentially maybe even force a mistake here by Castro, but Castro rock solid. And again, that Toyota GR86 kicked the tires. Shanahan lets his presence be felt. Like I said, the shadow always can never leave the shadow, man. He is always right there.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a little bit of liquid
what's
there
he
for a second.
peeing out the back there?
Yeah, there's a little bit of liquid that came out the back. Hopefully it's nothing too major, but Shanahan, knowing that he's at potentially a deficit, although he did complete his run, it did look good. He was much slower than he should have been with the wheel going off. Very aggressive in the chase. Now, Castro up front could have been a little bit deeper through the first outside zone, comes out of the second outside zone a little bit late, and you can just see the hands of Shanahan constantly making corrections, constantly trying to find a better way to attack the car in front of him. So Castro there could have been a little bit deeper. I mean, Castro filled all of the zones, I would say 50%. You know, he got one wheel into all of them, should be getting two into the majority of them. Wasn't quite there, but I mean, Shanahan behind him, man, he really is one of the greatest chase drivers in the series right now. I don't think you can argue that.
No, I mean, he was, you know, like I said, just demon him the shadow. You know, it's like Peter Pan, man. You just can't, your shadow's always there, right? And just giving him that buzzsaw. I do give him accolades. It looks like they're out of the car. That's kind of the Irish way. They get out of the car, dab it up, and you can see Castro and Shanahan rapping out. What do you think they're talking about?
I mean, I'm sure, you know, Shanahan's like, yeah, I lost a wheel, I made it around. I mean, that's the part I'm very interested to understand is the way I'm looking at this is he did DB.
Yeah.
He completed the course, he filled all the zones, he did meet all the requirements.
How big a role does that play?
Exactly. This is very similar to somebody being like a cylinder down or two cylinders down. You have less speed. If we look at it from the aspect of speed through the course, he has a deficit, but that's not really something we judge on. So it's an interesting situation because very rarely does somebody DB'd and still able to complete the course and fill all the zones at angle. You know, the only thing he's missing is the speed of the track, which isn't something that's, you know, a judging criteria.
Loving the camaraderie here. You know, I do like this touch. You know, we've seen it at Drift Masters. We've seen it, you know, at LZ World Tour. Get out of the car. I really want to, you know, in traditional like stick and ball and football and stuff like that, you hear like kind of the banter. I'd love to get these guys mic'd and see what they say. So,
it's like the cool
FYI, Kemp, let's get some mics on these guys.
Yeah, give Sopa a big stick with a mic.
Right, there we go. There we go. Now we're talking.
Give Sopa another job. I feel like he does every job here.
Oh, okay, don't give him too much respect. Okay, he points at the guys, gives them thumbs up like he's, you know, Rambo. He's the Rambo meme.
He windmills from time to time.
Yeah. I called it the Woo Mill. It's the Von Gittin Jr. Woo Mill.
Oh, see, I was going back to like, you know, Townsend from The Who.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. There you go. Okay. All right. I appreciate the. What are we doing here?
Are we pushing it back?
Oh, rolling fenders. I like this. Again, I like the smile. Shanahan's such a great addition to Formula Drift. You know, he's had a bit of a tough go at Drift Masters. He's had some kind of bad luck here, but overall, great addition. Love seeing his face here and his attitude. It's great to see talent from all over the world come over here and really take a stab here at Formula Drift. And you know, he really is doing just that, taking a stab at it.
His family's probably already texting him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know Jack's already on the phone, like giving him notes or you know, telling him what he could have done or should have done. You know.
Yeah, he spots from across the globe.
Yeah, he really does. Really does. So yeah, it is a family affair, that's for sure. So let's take a look here. Oh, there we go. That's the replay we're looking for. So let's take a look here at Shanahan's run. Let's forget the fact that he lost a tire and just look at this from angle and line and fluidity. So doesn't quite fill all of that zone. Maybe if the tire was on, it would have, but as he comes through 3, does get all of that zone. Castro does a great job there in the chase. Maybe not as much proximity as we saw. And then Castro there, really hesitant in the chase through outside zone 4, able to get through it. I mean, if you forget the fact that he was off a tire, that he only had one wheel with grip, it was a phenomenal run.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part here. Once again, I kind of go back to if somebody was just down on power, if nitrous wasn't working, if a blower belt came off and they still got through.
Like Mata, right? Losing his supercharger.
Right.
Nitrous offset that. We saw that with Oda. We saw that with Simon.
I mean, the last run of Chelsea Denofa, you know, he had no nitrous and he had a 600 horsepower engine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what the judges are looking at, and tough call here.
Here we go. So, all right, Jonathan Castro, looks like we got one more time. Oh, look at this across the board. It's a one more time. Traditional racers, they were, you know, from rally to stunt driving to this. Chris was the true drifter that became a champion. Robert Thorne, here he is making the jump from traditional racing McLarens, Porsches, all that, and now here he is having a blast of drifting, but he would love to get this victory here, but obviously Forsberg wants to get it just as bad, if not even more. So here we go into the second outside zone. Goes Chris Forsberg to the 64. Robert Thorne surges the attack. We talked about how loose his car is and then just grips out of the hole, out of the pocket when he transitions. Now into outside zone 4. And it looks like flirting with the edge of the track. It looked like that back right definitely was off. But we're going to need to take a look at that different angle. And we saw that coincidentally with Alex Jaeger. You know, they operate out of his pits the Steal It Nissan 370Z. And unfortunately, you know, in seating, he had 2 wheels off. And that was unfortunate. Let's take a look at it again.
Yeah, Forsberg is one of the drivers that took to this track and all the changes the quickest. So you can really see it through the majority of this run. Does an amazing job through the first outside zone. Good transition, very late into the second outside zone, but that is kind of what we're looking for. Robert Thorne in the back, making some adjustments, not super fluid or consistent, but not doing anything too crazy. And this is what we're looking for, just one. I think that was just one. So Forsberg looked like he dipped 1 tire off through there, which isn't what we want to see, but it's not uncommon right now.
Right.
Yeah, it's
just
using all the track.
And look how settled Forsberg is.
Yeah.
That overhead, you know, Aaron Jesse, he's got that more static versus the FPV that we're looking at right now, Justin Smash. But the car, you know, look at, I mean, minimal wheel feed from Forsberg. Thorne really kind of, you see him kind of bouncing around the car, the attitude. Thorne, they both, I mean, he did mimic his line.
Yeah,
so kudos to Thorne. But again, you know, Chris, a little more smooth, glassy water. Thorne, a little bit choppy. See those white peaks out there in the lake, if boat analogies.
Yeah, you can see the inputs from Robert Thorne in the chase, whereas Chris Forsberg, I mean, if we didn't actually see his hands in the car, you wouldn't know he's changing it.
Right. Here we go, Robert Thorne out front, Chris Forsberg in this chase position. Let's see how Thorne handles it. Oh, we got a restart.
Got a cone.
All right, so a cone was hit by Thorne early on in the chicane, regardless of where it's at. Just FYI, if you're watching for the first time, our start chicane, that is intended to pair them up, not have a drag race off the line so that that chase car doesn't get left on the line. Also, 3 strikes and you are out. How do you gain a strike? Either you hit a cone, you leave the line early before all the lights have extinguished, or you even sleep on the line. What we'd like to do is basically no longer than 1 formula drift, 2 formula drift, go. If you stay on the line longer than that, that would be considered a strike. Here we go, Robert Thorne now out front. Chris Forsberg in that chase position, now transitioning in. Good job by Robert Thorne. Chris Forsberg giving him a little bit of room there. Now in the transition to outside zone 2. Robert Thorne looking a lot more settled. I talked about kind of the corrections and feeding the wheel, but now here we go in the outside zone 4. Big snappy transition by Thorne. Wow, he almost rotated there. And Forsberg gave a little bit of distance, but Thorne pulled that off. Holy cow. Houdini over here, a magician on that flick. I thought he was going to loop that thing.
I did too. I mean, looking at him come through 3, he had 3 wheels in the zone in 3, and I was like, what is about to happen here with the amount of speed that he had? I didn't know how he was going to handle it, but he did. So, dang, tons of style coming out of Robert Thorne all of a sudden. I love it. So initiation, a little bit hesitant, so you can add a bit more angle from this view. A little bit of a correction there as we come to our second outside zone. You'll see it here in 3. So look at that. He's basically got 3 wheels in and then really picks up speed here, whips the car around, and just, he does stall up. So the hard part here is we want the drivers to be slowing after their transition, but not quite to that level. So it's not incorrect, but it is not the most correct way to get around this track, is kind of the way that I could explain this. So very different, and this is what I really like about drifting, is there are multiple ways you can go through the track and get this. But Chris Forsberg in the chase does an amazing job not to overcommit, not to get too aggressive. Probably knew what was about to happen. Look at this. This might be becoming a thing here.
I'm totally cool with it. Again, I think there's a level of respect, and maybe, you know, if you know you're at fault, you know, I think this is the evolution of, not the evolution, it needs to happen. And we're seeing a lot of, you know, Formula One fights. We're seeing fights in NASCAR, you know, just this, you coulda, shoulda, woulda, I didn't mean to. And there's some ill intention and there's some honest sportsmanship that does happen, and there is confusion. And, you know, I know looking at the back end of Robert Thorne's vehicle, no taillights. I don't know if there was a brake light on there. That gets really difficult.
All right, let's take a look at our BC Racing coilovers side by side here. So, two very different tactics when it comes to the lead run here. Chris Forsberg, very smooth. All of his transitions are very smooth, whereas Robert Thorne gets super aggressive. And that's really the difference here, is both these drivers taking a different way to get through our third and fourth zone. The first and second zone, pretty similar. Chris's just was a little bit smoother. So, you know, there's some comparisons there, but this is the beauty in drifting, is we give them the rules, we give them the criteria, and two drivers find two different ways to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, and you pointed out there, Brutskiy and Thorne hit earlier in practice, and that can impede one, not only mentally but also physically. That back end,
yeah,
that big duck club, you could see a lot of ducks were hurt in the making of this event.
Yeah.
A lot of BMWs in pro spec, and then just a little scattering there. All right, slide him left for Forsberg, right for Robert Thorne. It looks like Chris Forsberg gets one. The Diego Higa JDM Supreme. He's got that Street Hunters body kit. Shout out TJ Hunt. But Matt Field, man, a lot of eyeballs on him. That Borla Heatwave Visuals Lean Customs GT Radial Corvette out front initiate. Diego Higa, again, just absolutely progressing with every round behind the wheel of this vehicle. Again, that vehicle one-time piloted by Ryan Tuerck. He's making it look good. But Matt Field pulling away from Diego Higa, the beast from the Bay, the 777 now coming into that final outside zone. I know Scarps is cheering him on here in the building, and now crossing that finish line. There we are, taking a look at Field and Higa.
Yeah, Matt Field has been on one since the first lap of practice, and I'm not shocked by this run even a little bit. So Matt Field, a little bit of a hesitation there before his initiation. You can almost call it like a balk, not intentional, just trying to make sure he's in the right spot. Now Higa, that was his biggest mistake there, as he transitions into two, does it too late, almost catches the rumble strips, and then from there, good luck keeping up with Matt Field in that Corvette. And Matt just making it look easy, smooth and precise, and just very controlled. Matt Field has dialed back his aggression. He's grown into being controlled. We've seen him before. We do some wild stuff. Like, what are you thinking, Matt? And he's lost championships that way. So I'm sure that's in his head. And now he is playing things still great. Everything looks amazing. Just dialing it back just a bit. But Higa, it's tough when you make a mistake like that. Going into two that early in the course, you're only a quarter of the way through. You spend the rest of the time just trying to play catch up.
Just that evolution of Matt from, the S chassis, and looking at him getting victories, behind the wheel of the LSS chassis. And then, here he is evolving into, the new Corvette that he's developing. Just the evolution of the Drift Cave and the Caveman and him, all these things have really contributed to Matt Field not just being a Formula Drift driver, but being a personality, really dialing it in, happily married, going on. And he also, you see him in the pits, he's like, what's great about after this? Get to go have some beers with my bros. So that attitude really feeds into it. You can feel that passion. And Diego Higa, the same again, has really contributed to the sport in his home country of Brazil. And look at that, Diego Higa, he drags bumper on that first outside zone, coming to that second outside zone. That field gets aggressive. He gets into the side, the backside of Diego Higa, and we talk about the fangs and the evolution. So as kind as much of a party he wants to have, he definitely wants to get this victory. Looking very forceful into outside zone 4. And that is a very aggressive way to make your presence felt. So let's back that up. I think, again, that first hit, he could have wiped himself out there.
Yeah, so when a driver makes a mistake, they almost enter that fight or flight mode, and Higa entered the fight mode. I mean, great initiation, gets super aggressive, and then Matt Field realizes right here, he goes, uh-oh, he's on one. Now he has to dive in, makes a bit of contact, they don't push into the wall, so Matt Field does have a bit of a mistake there. And I don't know if that's going to cost him it, but then he realizes, I really got to push hard. And I love this dive right here from Matt Field. Not super fast, doesn't do anything too wild, but is able to time the transition going into four so he can get into the pocket, gets on throttle, and just sticks the landing.
Let's watch Outer Zone 2 as well. Why was the contact made? Was he being too aggressive?
Right.
So again, as sensational as that FPV is, with Justin Smash's drone, I like that static, that overhead. But here, this is going to be great. I'm really kind of watching the right with Field in that chase.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, does he? I mean, Higa slows down there halfway through the zone. You called it.
Yeah, that smoke trail, and that's not always the rule. It's just, again, an aid, kind of an indicator, that smoke signal.
Yeah, exactly. So, the judges are looking for the drivers to slow down before they get into that zone and then get on throttle, where it looks like Higa was carrying a lot of momentum through the first part of it, realizes he's about to catch the wall, comes off throttle. Matt Field assumes he's going to have the same speed. And I mean, really, at these speeds, 1 or 2 miles difference is going to close the gap real quick.
And especially if you're Matt Field, your fangs are out, your claws are out. And I talk about this kind of evolution of the head caveman. Matt Field gets the win. Great effort by Diego Higa, but to our point, kind of floated out in, and his spotter from across the globe, Castro. So we got Ireland versus Dominican Republic going one more time. A great battle. Let's see a clean fight here. Ding, ding, right? So no hitting below the belt, boys, as we are about to see this. The lights are on. Once they extinguish, we're ready to go. Connor Shanahan in that Red Bull Garagistic BMW E36. Here we go, Castro in that LTH Toyota GR86. Shanahan, he's going to steer clear of that wall, but he does flirt with it again, man. Come on. Fool me once, you can't fool me twice. Here we go in that second outside zone. Now going a smooth line there in outside zone 3. Castro back a little bit, now transitioning through into outside zone 4. Shanahan absorbs with that back right tail light, takes a lick and keeps on ticking. So as they keep on keeping on, anything jump out to you and points of interest, Jacob?
Yeah, I think we're going to miss lunch because if they keep driving like this, we're going to be doing one more time until...
Well, Shanahan, again, roll the tape. Roll the tape.
Roll the tape. So, I mean, Connor Shanahan, once again, just knows that he needs to push as hard as possible. So, I really like the way that Castro is able to dive backwards into the pocket. Super hard to do. Once again, though, it doesn't fill all in the second outside zone in the chase. Still need to be doing that now. Shanahan throws all the speed he can into the car. Good transition, nice and slow, but there is a big e-brake pull that happens about halfway through. Castro is able to clean up the gap a bit there, so I mean, it was a good run.
Who had the e-brake pull, Castro or Shanahan?
No, Shanahan about halfway through, kind of on that transition road, but yeah, it's good. The only thing I wish Castro did was just kind of pull the line a little bit more. You see a bit of contact. I was watching for that to see if maybe there was going to be another DB. But yeah, I mean, Shanahan does a really good job. I think it's right there. You see it. You can see the car get disrupted just very briefly. It wasn't, I mean, it is going to slow the car down slightly, but I wouldn't call it a decel. It was more of a, I'm about to go hit the tire wall. I need to bring the back end around a little bit so I can push out.
We saw that in outer zone too. I don't know if you saw that handbrake. So really massaging the car into those outer zones, because when you pull the handbrake, that causes the car to just slide in that back end to draw back. Here we go, Castro now in that lead position. Shanahan, we talked about, and we're doting on him, how well he does chase. But I'd like to see him not giving so much of the buzzsaw, but just lurk in the shadows, and that's what he's doing. I like that. That shows better car control as opposed to way shallow for Shanahan. As Castro continues on, that could be the nail in the Irish coffin here for Connor Shanahan. Talking about it and being about it until that last outside zone, but let's take a look at it. Was he thrown off? Again, that smooth C, not a V, talking about that degree of angle and drawing that smoothness on that approach from outside zone 3 to 4. Nothing really stood out at first glance, but let's roll the tape.
All right, Castro with a straight line initiation. We're seeing a lot of drivers transition to this, especially on this track. Throws in a little bit more angle, good transition from both drivers, and this is it. Shanahan just absolutely pushing Castro through this zone. And Castro has to push a bit wide to fill all of 3, and then through the transition, really hard to tell with that angle, but it does look like Shanahan, he timed it correctly, so I'm not entirely sure why the car didn't slide out to where it should have in that point. Little bit tough to call, and then the other question is that one mistake from Shanahan, which is a big mistake.
Yes.
Does that...
Not arguably.
Yeah,
You're about to say arguably.
I know it was, yeah, no, not arguably. It's a big mistake. Does that overshadow the multitude of smaller mistakes we saw from Castro? Castro missed most of outside zone 2 in the chase. He missed most of outside zone 3 in the chase. So let's take a look here and understand who had the biggest, I guess, problem.
The culmination of it all, right?
When you sum it all up.
Yeah.
So look, that's what I mean. Castro basically misses off the second outside zone in the chase. Third outside zone, similar. There's a lot of gap there. But does that... Yeah, man, I don't know. Does that add up to more?
Big miss. What is it? Cut by 1,000? What is it? You know?
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep.
Yeah. So
is it death by 1,000 cuts, or is it one big stab
exactly
that Shanahan had?
Yeah. So both of them, you know, obviously they had errors there. And
wow, here we go. Quickly, Connor Shanahan, Jonathan Castro slide him left. for Connor Shanahan. So Shanahan gets the victory. And I think to your point, Brian, if you can't throw on your headset fast with the course, you know, Odie, he's right there in contention. This, you know, field suspension, vortex supercharged, wow, across the nose of Joao Barion. Looks like Joao gets into the back end of the S chassis. Watch this transition here. Odie keeps on, but Joao Barion, he knows who he's going against. And there we see that Corvette nose exposed. He gave him a nose job, even though he didn't want one. And now coming to that final outside zone. Here it goes. Joao Barion almost gets with that wall, that Monster Energy Bavarius Corvette. Wow. Again, as a chase car, you can't impede, and we've seen that being done before, but impressive for them to keep on.
Man, so Odie's been doing this initiation all day. He actually had contact with Hurst in practice on Thursday, but man, Joao times it so close. But Odie Bakchis, I don't know what has changed with him, but he is driving angry. It's the only way I can put it. It is so aggressive, but somehow still calculated. He's 90 degrees to the wall to the end of the third outside zone, and then just puts on rocket ships and disappears into outside zone 4. And most other drivers would have completely offshot that. We'd be cleaning them up out of the production truck. But somehow Odie Bakchis finds grip in the car and gets back on throttle. And Joao, I mean, he did everything he could. I don't know of a way that you could chase that any better or any more aggressive. But look at the gap that Odie's able to get here. And then this transition is still smooth. And look at it, he just scrubs speed, gets back on throttle, fills the rest of the zone. Man, Odie Bakchis is going to be one to watch for the rest of this night.
Absolutely, and again, there's the fridge doing double duty here, grabbing the large Corvette front bumper. All right,
man.
Michael the Fridge Weber, keeping it cool.
Yeah.
So there we are, taking a look. Looks like, and we are seeing a courtesy 5 here for Odie. Contact between the two of them, so courtesy 5 for both drivers. And not utilizing the competition timeout, just getting clarification here. So both drivers are getting courtesy 5, not having to utilize their competition timeout. I think that's the right decision. You know, contact, both being aggressive. As we watch Mario Kart here in the background.
It's gonna use the shell, man.
Dude,
use the shell.
Which color?
Oh, red.
Duh.
Yeah, of course.
That's the heat. It's a heat seeker. Heat seeker, dude. All right. Throw a banana. Please throw a banana. That'd be amazing. All right, Rockstar Energy Drink Top 32. Jeff Jones, Simon Olsen. So vehicles look obviously similar, but you can tell them apart with the Fluoro Orange versus the Fluoro Yellow. Jeff Jones and that Evil Auto Works Nissan 370Z. And we are taking a look here. And again, that courtesy competition timeout is contact without an incomplete on run 1 is, again, that courtesy 5, so an automatic 5 there for those two drivers.
Yeah, and going back to those stats there, so those are being pulled out basically from the last 4 years. Keep it nice and relevant. So 2020 on, you can see both those drivers very, very close when it comes to their matchups there. So absolutely great comparison here between Jeff Jones and Simon Olsen. Simon Olsen on an absolute heater here for the last year.
Yep.
Jeff Jones, I mean, he's got some work to do.
Yeah, but man, Simon in Jersey, just what a tough break, dude. What a tough break. Jones, always a good time. And again, curator of Hot Pit Auto Fest going on next week. Oh, look at Jones. He brings it in, but Simon Olsen hangs back. Again, maybe giving him too much respect. He needs to get up there. Giving him maybe some room here, maybe lunging towards the end. Let's see what he's got. Good line by both the drivers. Jones, perfect on the outside zone 4. Jones is due. I'm telling you what, Jeff Jones is due. We've seen him get on the box before, and I'd love to see him, you know, just really rise to the occasion. There we are looking at the field suspension teammate of Odie Bakchis. Taking a look at that back right.
Yeah, so Jeff Jones, the only thing I really noticed as a negative is it almost looked like he missed a gear there for a second on the run-up, and the initiation wasn't super aggressive, but other than that, super quick. And then Simon Olsen here has to dig out, pull a bit of line out of the car to get the proximity back, as Jeff Jones adding a little bit more angle here and there, comes out of the third outside zone. Great. They transition nice and well. Simon could have been a little bit quicker on that so he could fill the rest of the pocket, pulls a bit more line out there. So Jeff Jones, I mean, other than that spot right there, which is, you know, I kind of called it a balk earlier. Yeah. Simon is able to catch up, is able to get the rest of it, but I might have thrown Simon off his game a little bit. Either way, it's not quite the chasing we're used to seeing out of Mr. Olsen.
Simon Olsen, where are you at, buddy? What do you got? Jeff Jones, again, that could have been an opportunity there. And again, the Norwegian flag waves high, saw his pops earlier. And there, boom. Yeah. There's Dad cheering him on. Again, a Norwegian drift champ. There he is, atop the building, flying the flag the highest. His pops cheering him on, and right there is Simon Olsen is leading that field suspension S15. And Jeff Jones will chase him down with that big drift energy. Evil Auto Works, operating out of Redlands. Great chop out there. Here we go. Simon Olsen initiates. Ooh, Jeff Jones, look at that. He drops into formation. Sticks to him like Velcro, little hook and loop closure. Now dropping in, you can see that. Simon Olsen, good clean line, pulls away from Jeff Jones into this final outside zone 4. What's Simon gonna do? Quick little yank of the handbrake. Jeff Jones. Saw him kind of drop back there. That was an interesting approach. Maybe got nervous of the wall.
Yeah, so the 3 to 4 looks like something that's happening with the cars. That aggressiveness between, like, coming through 3, picking up all that speed, and able to checking the car up in 4 is a product of the setup in these cars, because we saw the same thing with Odie. We're seeing it now with Simon. So Simon doesn't fill all the first outside zone, but Jeff Jones adds, like, you know, a shadow basically there. Now Simon does a good job through the second outside zone. Jeff does a better job than Simon did in the chase there, but right here is where these field suspension cars start to take off, and then he catches it and is able to get back on the throttle, and Jeff Jones cuts out a large portion of outside zone 4. So, man, real tight. This is really going to come down to what we saw before. The small mistakes, how much do they add up, and what the difference is. So,
overhead.
Back to our BC Racing custom coilover side by side. You can see, so lead versus lead there. I would say that Jeff Jones has a bit of an advantage. The second outside zone is pretty comparable, but Jeff does a better job in the chase. Third outside zone, though, that is all Simon Olsen. And then fourth outside zone, Jeff does a good job, but Simon has a bit more there. Yeah,
C to a V. Again, you saw that with Jeff kind of check up halfway through the outside zone 4. And there he is again. Norwegian flag, his pops. Don't see him at every round, so it's good to see him. Good to see him in the mix. Good to see him. Good to see him here. But, you know, maybe he's a good luck charm.
He's very, very supportive. Comes out to so many different things, and I've spent a.
You see him in Godville?
I did see him in Godville.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. One more time. One more time. So, Rockstar Energic Toyota GR Supra and Daniel Stuke in the M-Spec Performance S chassis. Look at this. White and gold all over. Look at this. And now into that second outside zone. Freddie, again, just the robot. He's, you know, like I said, he's kind of shown some cracks before, and now he, Stuke dives in on the inside. Not the right line from Stuke, and contact is made.
Yeah.
That was, you saw Stuke shoot in, grip up, and go ahead and hit that left front Forge Star wheel wrapped in the Nitto tires. What a bummer there.
Yeah, that was a desperation move there from Stuke. I mean, it sucks, but that's and at the end of the day, that's what ended up happening there. Is Stuke got caught a little bit far behind. Aasbo up front. From my first look at it, everything looked fine, and Stuke just had to do what he had to do to get back in the race, and did a little too much.
Yep. There we are in Simon Olsen's car. And again, Daniel Stuke is at fault. The judges quickly say, yep, definitely Stuke. Up until this point, you know, decent.
Yeah.
Freddie put the car in the right places. Walk us through it, sorry.
Very calculated initiation. Second outside zone looks good. Stuke cuts a bunch of line there for that section. Then through the third outside zone, we see a little bit of left foot brake. Stuke dives in right here, completely missing the path, and just catches front wheel on front wheel. When that happens, you know, the steering wheel comes out of your hand. There's nothing you can do. That steering wheel gets completely torn out, and and you can see it. You can see Freddie trying to get the car collected, and it's all over at that point. There's nothing you can do.
All right, here we go. So again, with that contact, they did complete the run, so keep that in mind. Here we go, lights will extinguish. And Joao, another Brazilian pilot. He's got the clean air in more ways than one, because he opens it up without that front bumper on, gets into that first outside zone. And you talk about how aggressive Odie is. You talk about how good Connor Shanahan is chasing, but also Odie, just look at the degree of aggressiveness from Odie Bakchis, that field suspension S15. Good job from in that last outside zone. Man, a lot of these guys are just pulling that out of their hats. So some great execution there from Joao Barion, pulling that off.
Yeah, it was, I mean, very aggressive, even right off the gate there. I mean, Joao Barion just hucking a ton of angle at initiation, knowing he's kind of behind the 8-ball a little bit and has to go hard. You can see it right there. You know, Joao adds even more angle coming out of the first outside zone as they transition into the second. Joao does a good job in the lead, and I mean, Odie does miss a little bit of the zone, second outside zone there in the chase, and even a little bit there in the third. But yeah, everything looks great there from both drivers, and Joao driving like a madman to get through it. I never like to see when somebody has a mistake on that first run, but it usually means that the second run gets absolutely buck wild.
Yeah, again, just like I said, you know, I think Odie is just like, I'm tired of being the bridesmaid, dude.
Yeah.
Why not me? Why not me?
I need that championship. Like,
yeah.
Let's go. He's doing everything. I mean, he's doing stuff with the car that we haven't seen before. He's driving with a level of aggression we haven't seen before. I don't know where he keeps developing new ideas and tactics and setups, but man, Odie Bakchis is on one.
Yeah, Dr. Odie Brisket, dude. Brisket for the brisket. You know, I mean, you got to let it ferment, baby. Hey, how we doing out there? We got drift fans of all ages. Yeah, that guy, big bow tie guy. We got a Drift STL shirt out there. And here we go, Odie Bakchis, Joao Barion, and it looks like Odie Bakchis does get the win. Joao Barion and that of Olsen. And we are sending cars, but tell you what, Simon making the jump over to Odie's camp and campaign this vehicle. Never driven an S chassis, never V8, never supercharged, all that together till last year, and obviously it's working. Here we go, Jeff Jones. Ooh, he tapped real hard. Fortunately, he doesn't come unbeaten, but I think that threw Simon Olsen off a lot. So we're gonna have to get that overhead view from a man, Aaron Jesse, the eye in the sky. Now transitioning that last outside zone goes Jeff Jones. And Simon Olsen does gain a lot of ground. Let's see, again, that was a pretty big hit by Jones. When we talk about that overhang, that Z does have a pretty extensive little, what do you call it, BBL?
I mean, you did, so. Looking at the run up here, Jeff Jones definitely rowing through the gears as quick as he can, and then starts to float the car out. Just what it comes down to is not getting on throttle soon enough. And you can see it, he gets on throttle as he's hitting that wall, and that's what it is. We want them on throttle as soon as possible, not only because that's what we're asking for, but because it's going to set you up for the best line. So from there on out, though, I mean, obviously Simon saw the impact, kind of went, okay, we got to hang tight here for a second. You'll see a bit of hesitation from Simon Olsen, almost waiting to see if Jeff Jones is going to spin out at that point. And there it is. And you see Simon got like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And then there, Jeff gets back into the second outside zone after missing the first half bit. But I mean, shouts out to Jeff Jones. Hits the wall, keeps going, puts the throttle down. It's like, all right, let's go.
Big drift energy. He says it on the roof.
I like it.
And we are seeing Jeff, again, saw the one more time. Looks like he might be heading back. No? Okay, good. He says,
back around.
Good.
Yeah.
Little cosmetic damage, NBD.
Takes a licking. Keeps on ticking.
And Simon Olsen will now lead that field suspension. Like I said, just a great formula for this Norwegian Drift champ coming together. Olsen, always a great attitude, and I'm looking for him. If it's not this year, it's at some point he will be a champion. Just gonna throw that. Simon Olsen will lead. Jeff Jones giving chase. Jeff Jones, look at that right there. Drops into formation, but Simon Olsen a little bit deeper in that lead position. Oh, Jeff Jones comes up way short on the outside zone too, almost getting contact with Olsen. And look at, I was just gonna say minimal corrections. And then into that last outside zone. Jeff Jones taking a kind of an awkward line on that approach on that last one.
Look at Odie.
And there's Odie smiling,
the
smirking.
International hand signs. Look at he's gapping them, and I dialed in the suspension that way, and that's why I got it. But
there's pops again.
It's good. I mean, it's obviously a lot of the car, but the driving of Simon Olsen, I think he's just come into his own here, and he played it straight. He didn't do anything too crazy. He didn't get into his own head about it. He was still aggressive, did everything he needed to do. But Jeff Jones, almost from the get-go, looked like he was struggling a little bit. I did see something fly off there. I wasn't sure if that was something he picked up before, but flew into the tire wall there into the second outside zone. But Simon Olsen, man, I want to know how they're getting the cars to do this, because they're floating really well into the outside zone 4, but they're catching onto it. It looks beautiful. And I wonder if I can spot what comes off Jeff Jones' car as it flies into our tire wall. Not quite, but either way, I mean, Jeff definitely struggled in the chase. Simon looked great out front. Still, there's still some corrections in his run. There's still a few. You can see the front wheel wavering there a little bit. Like, it's not perfect. Simon's still got some improvements to make. And if you want to win the event, you've got to be perfect.
Well, and coincidentally, if he gets this win, he goes against Odie. So Simon Olsen gets the win. It is a family affair in the 16. So how is that going to work out? And again, talking. I've had a couple this.
We've been through.
It's a long weekend. These pro spec rounds. It's about attrition. From getting in on Wednesday. You got got seeding on Thursday. You got pro spec Friday, and then of course here we are, game day for our pro championship here on the Rockstar Energy Drink Top 32, 3-time champion Frederick, the Norwegian Hammer Aasbo, and he's being led by Daniel Stuke, as Stuke will lead. And keep in mind, this is the second half, because we had that contact between Stuke. Now Stuke, good, clean, sweeping line. This is where he had some trouble in the chase position, but Freddie brings it on back, and that's really gonna, again, sugar-free, but it's pretty sweet when it comes down to a good line by Stuke out front, but unfortunately that hit on the lead run of Freddie, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, if Stuke, had a similar chase to what he had lead here, he'd be in contention of winning this for sure, because Stuke, I love the way he gets onto the throttle there, floats it in, gets on throttle. That's when you see the smoke come off it. Does a really good job through the second outside zone. Frederick Aasbo kind of baiting and just waiting to see what's going to happen here. And then Daniel Stuke, I really like how fluid these transitions are and how smooth he gets back on throttle. Like, Stuke's got all the makings. It was just that one mistake. And really in drifting now, that's where we're at. One mistake, it's all over.
Yep, one mistake could cost you. So here we are, Frederick Aasbo gets the win in the BMW. And then you can see Kazuya Taguchi in that up garage, Jerry Yang Racing ISR Performance 86, and Brandon Sorensen, he backs it in. You can see that trunk lid being popped open. That caused Kazuya Taguchi go shallow in on the inside. Brandon just slingshots away from him in the outside zone 3. And then yeets his way on into outside zone 4. Kazuya Taguchi just not finding that sweet spot. You can see just a little bit glitchy, choppy, still kind of buffering, maybe seeing a little bit of a blue screen, kind of on brand right now. Just maybe not getting that full download, and might have gotten thrown off right out of the gate. Once you get off, you can never get back on those rails.
Yeah, and Brandon Sorensen getting very aggressive, so I like the movement there. And then look, it pushes it into the wall. Does come out of the zone a little bit because of that. Doesn't seem to affect Kazuya, but I'm sure it does. And then right through here, Brandon again into the wall. And then we go out to the third outside zone where Brandon's on the throttle, and Kazuya just not able to really keep up and fill the zones there, especially here through the fourth outside zone. But at the same time, Brandon being that aggressive and hucking the car into 2 out of the 4 walls, that's going to, it's going to give some pause in the chase for sure. You see somebody doing this, you don't know what they're going to do next, but Brandon Sorensen literally using every single square inch of this track.
Yeah, he hawked it not once, but he hawked it twice.
Yeah.
So, hawked into that wall, and he saw Brandon Sorensen. Again, really, really good driving, and again, notably his sister being the first ever female. It just bears repeating. It's just really cool, and I'm just liking her energy and her momentum, and I'm sure Brandon's feeding off that as well. Even he's trying to grow his hair out to do hair whips.
Wow.
Yeah, look, maybe,
They're competitive at everything.
and they have their little brother too.
Yeah, and he's watching come up through the ranks. He's crushing.
He's doing off-road racing as well. Here we go. But right now, all eyes are on Kazuya Taguchi out front. That up garage ISR Performance, Jerry Yang Racing 86. Brandon mimics him, and oh boy. Oh. All right, and I'll tell you, Kazuya. I think this is a perfect storm. We'll take a look at it, because Kazuya might have been too aggressive on initiation, and Brandon was right there as well as Frederick Aasbo watching on. Again, not even breaking a sweat. Let's back this up. So again, here's the scenarios. Was Kazuya going to the wall pretty hard and Brandon was aggressive, or was Brandon too aggressive and pushed him into the wall?
Yeah, it's man. We're definitely going to see the replay. Yeah,
I'm just saying scenarios.
I'm trying to get prepared for either one, but yeah, that is a big hit there. Because so let's look at this, and then we'll do a bit of a comparison here for a second. So Kazuya through, Brandon does give him a little bit of space. Kazuya into the wall, and then Brandon checks him right after. Oh, man, because Brandon also got in the wall, but Kazuya didn't hit him. Now, they did seem to hit the wall in 2 different parts.
Here's the scenario. If he didn't hit him, was Kazuya going to go into the wall regardless?
I mean, he was already into the wall. The question is, was he able to dig out of the wall afterwards?
But that's again, like if we could just remove Brandon from this scenario, like you know, let's get this CGI going here, the AI.
He's in the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kazuya was already into the wall.
Yeah.
So that's why I say again, remove him. Taguchi goes in. Brandon just kind of emulsified it. He threw more gas on the fire. He forced him even harder into the wall.
He's doing what we're asking him to do. Yeah.
Kazuya's in. Keep going. Touch. Oh yeah, he's pretty deep.
And I mean, it's possible that Kazuya could have dug out of it, but it's also possible that Kazuya could have swung back out and nosed into the wall after.
Right.
Right. Those are the two things that could have happened there. But the hard part is we're asking Brandon to be as close to the door as the driver in front of him as possible. And this is the side effect of that when the lead hits the wall, the driver in the chase is doing what he's supposed to do. He's probably going to hit that car.
Yeah. So, again, a hard hit, a case of, you know, Kazuya knows that Brandon's going to be right there, and he was, literally. But I think that's going to be the case. Kazuya was already going to the wall, and it just emulsified the scenario with Brandon being aggressive.
And he caught the wall really early. I mean, he's basically catching it there right at the beginning of the
look at that. Oh, he was up.
Yeah, okay. Kazuya was deep into the wall.
Oh, yeah.
So the chances of him being able to dig out of it, I mean, he broke his wheel on the first impact. So the chance of Kazuya even finishing the run are pretty slim.
So Brandon's got some time to work on his car. Kazuya Taguchi knocked out, but Brandon Sorensen rises to the occasion in the United States Air Force BMW. Congratulations to Brandon Sorensen. The young buck is moving on. High flying, high soaring. B. Sorensen moves on. Thank you to all those that we have lost. Here we go. Again, let's celebrate it. Let's burn some tires. Adam LZ, Ben Hopson. This is one heck of a battle. Adam LZ goes hard with that BMW, the Drift HQ BMW. Ben Hopson now transitions.
Oh!
Holy cow. That is far from breezy. That is a hard steezy. Wow, that is a hard hit outside zone 2 for Adam LZ. Oh, man. That is going to be really hard to come back with and that was unassisted by Ben Hopson in that lead run. That was a hard hit by Adam LZ.
Yeah, that was one. I'm glad everybody's okay because that was a big hit with a ton of speed into that wall. So, oh wow, okay. Yeah, so we're gonna have to swap back to the replay to truly understand how all that came about. But I'm sure Ben Hopson, nobody wants to see any of their opponents go into the wall quite like that. And yeah, let's see here. So Adam out front and Ben following in behind. So Adam, ton of speed, good initiation, touches the wall there, and that probably is what pushed him offline. And then tries to back it in and get back on throttle, but it's too late at that point. By the time he transitions, he is carrying so much speed that there's almost no way that he could have dug out of that other than, kind of looping the car. So you can see he's on throttle almost the entire time. It looks like it did bounce back a little bit into the RTR, but obviously that Drift HQ BMW taking the brunt of the force. Oof. So wow, that is not good.
Yeah, he took a hard hit in Jersey. I know he's upset. He's like, there's only one set of those wheels in the world, the last set. I'm talking about his TE37s, and he moved that wall. So there's Sonny, Ben Hopson's lady cheering him on. Giffy, you got James Dean back there, and Ben Hopson's, he's had a tough go, man, but I'll tell you what, if you want to feel his energy, go to his Instagram, and after he found out he was in the show today on seating brackets on Thursday night, you could feel it. It just, guys, we're in! He is just electric.
That's a lot of relief.
Yeah, a lot of relief, a big sigh, and I got to tell you right now, it seems like he's one step closer to being in 16.
Yeah, so it does look like
it's unassisted.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Absolutely unassisted.
It just, I think Adam touching and maybe just nicked the RT.
Ben maybe caught a little back right fender. Yeah, it looks like he actually did maybe pop out the fender, and I don't know. But that could have been even worse for Ben. Good thing he wasn't right on his door.
Yeah, I really think that when Adam goes to the first outside zone, that push there pushes him a little bit wide and then puts a ton of forward drive in the car, which caused him to shoot out. And it looks like Adam knew in transition that things were not going to look good and gets back on throttle. I don't think he left. I don't think he came off throttle, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Throttled it right into the wall.
Yeah, knowing Adam, but that's the hardest hit we've seen in outside zone 2, just completely offline. And again, Adam's had some great success campaigning his own BMW E36 this year, that Drift HQ. LZ Manufacturing. He's a busy man, so it's great to get his time. He's obviously arguably one of the most popular drivers out here, so really cool to see him out here and campaign his vehicle. But
tough one.
Yeah,
tough
definitely.
One.
That's not going to buff out.
No. What's kind of interesting about this whole thing too is, obviously Adam no longer with RTR and then Ben coming in. So, I doubt there's any like rivalry or grudge there, but it's kind of neat to see, the driver that's no longer with the team going against the driver that kind of filled that role afterwards. So, just, a little fun with that, but we'll see. I mean, can their team fix this in 5? It'd be a monumental task.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that back left. It was wobbling its way, and that bash bar. That
bash bar is all the way in there.
Yeah, dude, that is Godzilla just smashed that thing, man.
So right now, more than likely, what they're doing is just seeing what needs to be repaired on the car. Because the moment that they put hands on it, that clock will start. That competition timeout will start. So they're able to kind of skirt the rules a little bit and take a look at all this. But I think we're going to get some more info from Lorette down with Adam right now.
Adam, was that just a misjudgment on your part?
Yeah, I haven't even gotten, I don't want to say I haven't gotten close, but very, very strange. I think I just got into the marbles on that zone because I just had nothing as soon as I was in the zone, and I couldn't drive out of it.
Stick BMW, again, the Clonex Next and Tire, BMW of Trent Beachum. RCP leading. Now transitioning into, looked like Trent Beachum, a little tip to tail on that initiation, but then does drop into formation down to that second outside zone. Adam was talking about getting the marbles, didn't seem that way at all right there, and good angle from RCP. And Trent Beachum, look at him, the White Widow, man, he is right there. Oh boy. Oh man, so aggressive, but then just bit off way too much on that last outside zone.
Recovery crew is earning their money today, that's for sure. So, that last zone, we talked about in the beginning, it is eating a lot of cars, and what it comes down to is how aggressive you can be and what that lead car does in front of you. Are they slowing down? Are they staying on throttle? So that's what we're going to be looking for here. Is Rome on throttle all the way through? Is he picking up speed all the way through? And if not, did that cause Trenton Beachum to have a bit of a collision there? But let's take a look before we get to that point. So Rome does a good job there. Trenton takes a little bit to settle into the first outside zone. And then through the second one, we see Rome doing a good job. Looks like he missed a little bit in the first part of that. And then right through here, Rome's not filling all of outside zone 3. Ton of speed going into 4. And then right here, I almost need to see the decel lights to be sure. I don't think Rome was decelling through that section. Good transition from both drivers though. Trent Beachum timing that perfectly. And then Trent gets on throttle. I don't see Rome slowing down. It looks like he was at a consistent speed. Hard to tell though. But Trenton was very aggressive there through the fourth one. So see one more time they come through this. I mean, love the transition from both drivers. Let's watch the front wheels there of Rome to see if there's any steering input changes. I think it looked like Rome was on a good path, and Trenton just got a bit too aggressive.
All right, here we go. Taylor Hull will lead. Mike Power about to throw down two different kind of schools of thought, different kind of backgrounds here. We got Georgia versus East Coast, S15 versus Americana, but this should be one heck of a battle. Here we go, Taylor Hull and Mike Power. Taylor Hull, let's see what kind of attitude we got here from him out front. Boom, goes ahead and initiates. Mike Power has to drop back a little bit. Like to see him be a little more aggressive. You got to think Mike Power had to take, shallows up. Taylor Hull keeps on keeping on into the outside zone 3, throws some more angle at it. Now coming down into that last outside zone. Mike Power in a different zip code right now, and Taylor Hull maybe flirts with that tire wall, but overall it looks like Taylor Hull is going to have a bit of an advantage. Mike Power kind of needs to join that chat room, man.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it a strategy by any means, but maybe looking to see if Taylor Hull was going to make a mistake in front of him. But Taylor gets a good launch. First outside zone looks really good, very consistent. You can see the left foot brake there when you see the tire smoke coming off the front wheel. Second outside zone, Mike's basically got to cut the zone just to get back in the race. Taylor Hull could have been a little bit deeper through outside zone 3. Good transition here, and we didn't quite see exactly what happened. Wow, that was so close from Taylor Hull.
Yeah.
Our previous angle didn't quite show it as glaring as our overhead did, but Taylor Hull almost put himself out of that battle. That strategy of Mike Power to kind of lay back and wait might have paid off there, but it doesn't seem to. So Mike Power's got a lot of work to do there in the lead, whereas Taylor, I'm sure his wife and spotter is going to be letting him know exactly how this played out, because when you're in the lead, you really don't know what's going on in the chase there, and you can hear the judges in the background kind of oohing because like it was so close to the line.
All right, I know my man Carl Taylor from Hoonigan. He's tuning in, having some adult libations and watching. He says, oh man, like I love it, like all the DMs and the texts and stuff that I get. It's great because I know people are watching from all over the globe. Like I said, the Conklins are watching in Germany. We know the Shanahans are watching, you know, Power. We got the whole, all the families and the extended, just the fans, man, watching all over the globe. So let everybody know. Again, here we are in a Rockstar Energy Drink Top 32. Mike Power now initiates out front. Good angle from him. Taylor Hole comes up way shallow on that first outside zone. Now Mike Power into the second. He hits it, quits it. Now let's see what kind of line he draws into the outside zone 3. Taylor Hole, look at the proximity from him. How are they going to handle CV? What kind of letter are we going to draw out here on that last outside zone 4? Again, both really kind of need to tidy up. So again, you know, don't know what their deposit looked like cleaning up the place, but definitely need to clean it up a little bit. Here's a broom, sweep it up.
Yeah, both drivers, I'd love to see just a more consistent, more aggressive, and maybe a little bit quicker for Mike Power. It just seems like he doesn't have the car quite dialed in to get the speed, as we saw from the chaser. So does a good job through the first outside zone. Taylor Hall being a little bit hesitant, and Mike basically missing all of the second. Taylor starting to hunt in a little bit more, surging here and there. Mike comes out way early from outside zone 3. Which means that once we start to get into outside zone 4, he's going to have to stall the car up a little bit so he doesn't V out like that. Taylor does seem to predict that a little bit, so I don't have a definitive or a clear, in my mind. Both of them have some decent mistakes here. So if they're going to want to do well later on in competition, whoever wins this, they got to clean it up. So
V for not victory. V for the loss. I was going to say V for vendetta, but I was going to say V for the loss. C for the cleanliness.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's, the hard part too is like you don't know what goes through their minds after seeing all these drivers hit the wall and be like, man, like how hard do I really want to push right now? Like is it worth it to push that hard right now?
And I'm hearing that Adam LZ is able to pull up, and they're in the burnout box. So even after that hard hit, kudos to their team. But what kind of victory are we going to see here? Are we going one more time? Taylor Hole gets a 1 vote, gets a 2 vote, 3 votes. Oh no, one more time. So it was not unanimous. So Taylor Hole gets the victory over Mike Power and his Typo, and Ben Hopson, happy to see him going head-to-head for the first time in his Pennzoil Mustang RTR Spec 5 FD, and that is a failure to launch.
Do we have a restart? That's the only thing I want to look at here.
That was a clean start, and I know that, again, he did have some issues. Remember in seating, the car shut down. From what I understand, it was a clutch issue. So not exactly know what's going on here in the scenario, but that was a clean start.
So
Adam LZ just got a major gift, and again, 2 incompletes in the lead.
Yeah. So
again, both incomplete leads. You can't finish out either chase.
And I mean, as I said earlier, I mean the only way that Adam was going to win is if Ben had a major mistake before the first team.
Oh, dude, the plot thickens.
I am so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, just Ben needed to go through the course at, you know, nothing extraneous, nothing crazy, and there it is, shuts it down. Wow. A lot of spotters up top up there. You can see, gosh, Adam LZ missing almost half the car. Essentially, this is going to go to one more time.
Yeah, there's not enough information to judge on.
Yeah, so wow, Adam LZ got a major gift. Great liveries, great look, good feel, good attitude. Here we go, Manoah out front, ran Dan Burrette in that chase position. Dan Burrette earning the position from the seating bracket. Oh, buddy, and now into that first outside zone, applying onto the 14-year-old Manoah, that second outside zone. Dan Burrette, good proximity, mixed angle. You see him throw it out there, but then has to back off. Now coming that final outside zone goes Manoah, sweeping on in. Oh, and got some action there between Manoah and Burrette. Again, some great driving by Manoah. Burrette just kind of chomping on the bit, but just going back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, it looked like Manoah on initiation caught a bit of the wall, and I was very curious if there was some wheel damage there. I thought I saw some wavering of it, but Manoah at the gate, Dan does not give him a lot of room. Knows he's going to throw it hard. Has to add a bit more, and you see that first tap there. Now Dan really pushing on the inside, has to pull the car back just to make sure that he can fill the second outside zone. And then right through here, Manoah back on throttle, but Dan too much throttle. Now they transition to the fourth outside zone, and Dan comes up on the inside. Manoah on throttle doing a good job, and then Dan just a little bit of a wheel-on-wheel body check there, and Manoah staying in it all the way through. Very difficult to do when you have that kind of contact. You get a big, heavy Mark IV Supra on you, but just looks like Dan's got so much bite in that car, and he's trying to hold it back to keep up with Manoah's got more than likely a looser setup, a flowier setup, not nearly as fast. But what's going to be interesting now is with that setup in Dan's car, with it, what is potentially a faster setup, is Manoah going to be able to keep up with them when they swap this back around? And we see Manoah looks like he's getting ready for the line, and then Dan having the track staff come over. So is Dan going to end up calling a 5 for that contact that he made? Looking over, I can see Renee,
yeah, it looks
his wife
like
and spotter.
Yeah, it looks like he very well might be.
Yeah, it's hard to say what all.
One more time between Adam LZ and Ben Hopson. It was pretty much Hopson's to give away, and unfortunately the car said, nope. It unfortunately stopped working for him. So Adam LZ went hard at outside zone 2 on that first battle. Hopson shuts it down now. So here we are with the one more time between Adam LZ and Ben Hopson. Adam LZ in that Drift HQ, LZ manufacturer. Oh, and Hopson not initiating. Going around the track, Adam LZ continues on. In order to complete this, or in order to advance, he does need to complete it. He is the lead vehicle, so he continues on through the course, making it look breezy on the roof and on the track. Oh man, Adam, oh, he flirts with that. Oh my gosh, what is happening right now? What an unfortunate turn of events for Ben Hopson. He makes it for the first time in head-to-head competition, and now, unfortunately, the car is not letting him continue. Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah, I would love to know what all is going on right now, but absolutely failure to launch. Nothing happening there. LZ possibly has no idea what's going on behind him and is just sending it for this run. Doesn't go super deep there through the second outside zone because, well, it bit him the first time. The third outside zone could have been a little bit deeper, but very smooth transition, and then gets a little spicy here through this zone. Real close to the tires, real close to going 2 wheels off, but just able to hang on there. I'm always curious, like, do the drivers want to know that mid-run? Be like, the guy spun out behind you, like, just, I don't know, I have no idea.
Different strokes for different folks, for sure.
But, wow, Ben Hopson, he's got to be gutted.
Gutted, and you wonder, you know, obviously they had the opportunity to get hands on the car. Is he going to call a comp timeout?
Yeah.
I'm seeing the Pennzoil. Looks like the fam is up there. Round of applause for Ben Hopson.
Easily one of the most supportive families here.
Absolutely.
Oh man, it's amazing.
Yeah, Hopson always got a great attitude, but you know, again, feel the energy there. So he is calling a comp timeout. Hopson is calling the competition timeout, but now, you know, he's looking for, you know,
wow.
So trans clutch, so it. Such a bummer for him. And you know, Adam, he definitely got a gift here.
Yeah, so depending, I mean, wow, they got gear sets out. That's serious. So I was going to say, depending on what the issue is, they might be able to actually fix it in 5. If it's like a master cylinder kind of thing, you know, you can bleed that off. If it's a gear selector, that could be it. But the fact that they've got full gear sets out and what looks like catch pans, they might be pulling they might try and dump out the gear set from the trans and put it back in 5 minutes, which is wild. So yeah, this is crazy. And it looks like we've got the go-ahead, and they are jacking the car up.
Thrashing and bashing, man. So there we are in the RTR camp. You can see Burrette over there. Here's the second half of the Manoah Burrette battle, and again, Burrette, you know, got to the side of Manoah a little bit there towards the end, so he did call a competition timeout. So here's the second half. We're definitely going to see a side-by-side here, kind of bouncing around the different battles and different head-to-head. So here goes Rad Dan Burrette, Rad Industries. Mark IV Supra, good angle from him. Again, with that clean air, Manoah, let's see what kind of attitude he's got here towards the side of that vehicle. That Ajuka Racing 86 looks like he's kind of kicking back, giving himself some room. But Dan Burrette almost dragging wing on around the wall, from the wings to the walls, into that final outside zone, and brings it across the finish line. So a lot more sterile, a lot cleaner. So like I said, definitely going to pull up the side-by-side to remind us of, with Manoah out front and Burrette in that chase. There we are looking at the rear end of Dan Burrette and his Ford Mustang.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it'd be very curious to see if Rad Dan changed some stuff in the car, because it looks significantly smoother than it did before. Yeah, very, very interesting to see. My guess here is they're going to change the rear end. There's probably a gear that's completely blown in the car, so they're changing the rear end to get a better gear ratio to either keep him in second or keep him in fourth. My guess is that third is what the issue is. Total guess at this point, but anyways, that's what's going on. That's why they're changing the rear end. So take a look at our BC Racing coilover side by side. Let's see who has a better lead. We know that Rad Dan had a bunch of issues in the chase there, but Manoah did do a good job in the chase. Just I don't think Manoah had a mistake quite like we saw from Rad Dan there on the left side of the screen. It was a pretty tame chase, but Rad Dan did have a great lead, which makes it so much harder when you see what the consequences of that large mistake was. You know, Rad Dan could have done it, but.
Right, and that was kind of, you know, almost like we saw it earlier with the Shanahan Castro battle, right? The kind of one big as opposed to kind of the accumulation of those.
Yeah, Manoah played it smart. He dialed it back. He was still in the chase. He wasn't super aggressive, but I don't know.
Here we go. So we are seeing Manoah and Burrette. Slide him left for Manoah, the 14-year-old Japanese pilot in Juku Racing, Jerry Yang Racing.
He's to have an absolutely perfect run.
Yep. You know what? Crazier things have happened. We say that all the time. Here we go. Ben Hopson, Adam LZ, the one more time battle. Call us in. That's going to be a restart. That's going to be a restart. So here we are, just as the plot thickens. Going to bring it around. That might be definitely not strategy there, but you know, just I think that's nerves. You know, again, a lot of eyeballs on Ben making the jump from pro spec, coming over to pro with arguably one of the most you know, successful teams in drifting. You know, Von Gittin Jr. and his camp, you know, two-time champion with Von Gittin Jr. Chelsea Nova hanging up his helmet last year, and of course James the Machine Dean joining the RTR team this year. And you know, he's three-time champion, hasn't had a championship behind the wheel of a Ford Mustang, but he says, man, I'd love to be the first ever four-time champion, especially behind the wheel of a Ford Mustang. And Ford really committing to motorsports and drifting, not just a side dish, an absolute entree in that Ford lineup, from Dakar to 24-hour Le Mans to, you know, obviously road racing, IMSA, all that, and of course drifting. So here we go. The Pennzoil Mustang RTR Spec 5 FD, Ben Hopson on Nitto tires, and here comes Adam LZ in the chase position. What kind of initiation we're going to see from Ben Hopson? He initiates into that first outside zone, big angle there, and again, talking about that initiation, very different than what we've seen before. Adam LZ when he comes out of drift.
Yeah.
And that's going to be all she wrote. And there you go. Again, that was a tall order and a tall gear, a hard ask for Ben Hopson. He was dealing with what he was dealt, and that's just going to really solidify Adam LZ moving on after a crazy hit. What I thought pretty much knocked him out. Crazy turn of events there, Jacob. Unbelievable. Adam LZ and Ben Hopson, and just top 32.
Yeah, Ben's doing everything. He is probably clutch kicking this car about 100 times. You can see the e-brake. He gets on throttle, and then at this point he starts to over-rotate. He's not able to gear down at this point because he's putting into first. It's such an impossible task on top of what we already asked him to do, which is an impossible task. So, I mean, this is it. Adam LZ moves on to the top 16. He's gonna take on Rome Sharpens here. So
yeah, RCP.
Wow,
crazy event.